Everything you say, everything you do, it matters.
You matter. So all you got to do now is just make good, Brian.
Thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
I understand Breaking was quite a personal project for you. Could you expand a bit on why it was so personal?
Sure. Well, when I read Brian's story first in Erin Gale's article, my heart was broken. I recognized my dad's story. My dad's a Navy veteran. He fought in Vietnam. And throughout the course of my life, he's gone from being an athlete to being in a wheelchair. And he has had very little care from the Veterans Affairs Department.
Brian's story is obviously not unique, sadly, but why did Brian's story resonate with you so much, and why now?
I didn't read his story until we started making the film. I was completely unaware that there was a man named Brian Ron Easley who just wanted to be heard. And part of that is what struck me. Why hadn't I heard?
Because it happened quite recently too, didn't it?
2017, yeah.
There's more to this story, though, than just one man's struggle against the VA, right? So what else is at the heart of this story that you wanted to show with Breaking?
You're right, exactly. Really, it is one man, yes, but it's a sincere-hearted rebellion against the system that's broken. The Veterans Affairs most certainly is what's talked about here, but it's by far not the only one. There's so many different people that feel like they're in this big machine and they're just trapped by it and a little tiny cog in that machine. But if we as filmmakers, as artists, are able to show that you can move the machine as a cog, you can have a voice, you can be heard, then we're successful.
Is it true that Brian's family still haven't received his VA payments?
Actually, we had a really beautiful thing occur. An employee of the VA watched this film and reached out to Jessica, Brian's wife, and said, I'd love to help.
That's amazing. And what a testament to what filmmaking can do, as you said. Did filming during the pandemic put any constraints on your original vision for the film?
It's definitely complicated. We shot at the height of Delta, as so many people have face masks doubled and shields, and you're shooting in a tiny little bank, right? And you have a big crew. Well, for a small indie, you've got a big crew and 3 actors in a bank, and you're trying to make it feel like it's a stage play to give them freedom to work, all the while taking immense health precautions. In terms of practical ways that manifested, we just tried to use it to our advantage. And if you talk to John, you know a little bit of how he worked and how we worked together, and that kind of kept the girls separate. The psychology of keeping everybody in their own bubbles is that it's very alive when it comes on screen.
Yeah. It's quite a baptism of fire for your first feature film, though, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Can you recall what your most challenging day of filming was on set?
You know, every day was immensely challenging, but just practically speaking, the day that Michael K arrives on set, where all of the machines are in place, it was 110 degrees outside that day.
Wow.
And that's a lot of extras and a lot of big moving vehicles to coordinate for a crew of our size, punching a little bit above their weight. It was just hot. And it was just a matter of, okay, guys, like, we need to care for our crew first and foremost. Let's ice packs, fans for everyone, lots of electrolytes, but just really making sure that you're taking proper breaks, and also knowing that we can't afford to keep these trucks the next day. So you best get the shot.
Right. What about the most satisfying day for you, either personally or professionally?
There's one scene that we shot on separate days. The scene in the bathroom with Brian and his daughter, the phone call, both sides of that. Oh man, we were up against a clock. It was really difficult to get those scenes, that one scene, both sides of the phone call. John was in the bathtub while we shot her side of the call, and we started improvising, and I wanted to shoot her side first, so that John, when he opened his soul on camera, would have something to react to. I just let the camera roll. She's a kid, so you just kind of have to let her get to the kid space, right? Where she's not acting anymore as Kaya. She's just London, and she has real skills, London. But what we needed in that moment was just a pure childish vulnerability, right? And so John's in the bathtub off to the side, and just start having them improv a little bit. And then we just found the moment. And then we go to shoot the other side of the phone call, and it's one of our most packed days. I think we're shooting like 17 scenes in that
Wow.
day. It's, quite a few. And that's our last one of the day, just by nature of the schedule and the moves and when we could get the buildings and all the constraints you have as filmmakers. And I knew that if that scene didn't play, if we weren't able to really crack open a window into Brian's heart, the whole film doesn't land. I had one take with him, gave him one adjustment, and then I just said, don't cut until we know we've got it.
And he was brought into the project quite last minute. Why was it so tough to find your Brian?
It wasn't actually. It was one of those things that we were extraordinarily blessed that 3 days after we reached out to Jonathan Majors, he signed on, but then COVID and Marvel scheduling and all of the schedules just didn't quite align, but in a beautiful way, because the person who was supposed to be in the room wound up in the room. And John hadn't been available initially. He was on another project with our original shooting dates. So it worked out really beautifully that John was able to jump in when our dates changed.
What was it about John that made you know immediately he was the right man for the job?
He has extraordinary skill, extraordinary empathy, and he works from a place of freedom.
It takes a lot of skill to hit the ground running 2 weeks before shooting.
Exactly.
John mentioned that you and your DP, Doug Emmett, had a unique way of filming in that you'd let the cameras roll for extended periods, as you mentioned as well, beyond the scene. How did that change what you were getting from the actors in the scene?
There was an element of exhaustion that took place in the reality, that things would just kind of slow down in the space, all the while there was this intensity ratcheting up outside. So it allowed the actors to really play in that moment where Salinas and Nikki are playing off of John. They're looking to find out what is going to happen next. So they don't know. And John's such an interesting actor, and he's so alive in the way that he prepares that he can just keep going. So it allows the moments of surprise that really take acting from true to great to occur naturally.
What appeals to you about directing? What drew you into this business?
I love that I get to bring an extraordinarily talented group of people together in the service of one mission, and I get to bring out the best out of each one of them. I'm also kind of mediocre at each one of those, but I can become extraordinary by working with artists who are. I
think you're being humble there. The end product that you've delivered is absolutely phenomenal. But what's next for you after Breaking? What kind of story would you like to work on next?
I'm writing, and I'm in the process of defining that. So I'll let you know as soon as it percolates.
Sure. Let me know. Give me a call.
I will.
Thank you so much for your time today, Abby. It was a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you, Lee. Really nice to meet you.